I am the famous American. Or am I? Am I going to be canceled for having that name? Let's find out. I made a video quite recently. The video was called "The Term Aliens is Offensive to Extraterrestrials, Being Offended on Behalf of Other People." So if you haven't seen that video, here's the concept. Ultimately, I regularly and have often, through the years of having this channel, referenced the fact that in the United States, specifically, Jewish people often are financially successful and financially independent. That without Jewish Americans, we would not be the same when it comes to American cinema and American banking, among many other things. But I talk about that, and people will say they get offended by that. But yet, I always ask them in the comments, "Are you Jewish?" To which they always say no. To which I remind them, I actually am of Jewish descent. So it's interesting that someone who is not Jewish would be offended. Meanwhile, the person saying it actually is of Jewish descent. So that's interesting to me. So with that being said, let's check out the comment that I'm referring to in this video from Dave Mumi. Here's what Dave had to say. Quote, "There's a difference between being offended for others and defending your fellow human being. Your take isn't surprising because look at your name, the famous American. It's offensive to call yourself that because South Americans are American too, but us US Americans act like we own the term. It's disregarding them. Am I being offended on their behalf? Yes, because I am having an empathetic response and I'm trying to get ahead of potential offense. What if extraterrestrials do come here and see that we call them aliens? I see no issue in getting ahead of that," end quote. So, let's discuss this. Our friend Dave here, our viewer Dave here, who spends time watching my videos, and I appreciate your support, he is saying, I'm going to quote him. He says, "Your take isn't surprising because look at your name, the famous American. It's offensive to call yourself that because South Americans are American too." So, what I want to know, anybody watching this video right now, do you agree with Dave that it's offensive to call myself the famous American? Is that offensive? Who am I to say? That's like if someone says, "You're conceited, you're arrogant, you're full of yourself, you're egocentric." Well, if you immediately respond with, "No, I'm not, I'm really humble," well, obviously you just proved them right. So the last thing I'd want to do is to deny that the famous American is an offensive term and calling my channel that is offensive. Now, for what it's worth, and it's not me defending myself, just explaining where the name came from, the name always was a joke. I want to be very clear about that because I'm not famous. I mean, on this channel, I've got what, maybe 6,000 subscribers. I've got another one with about 11 or 12,000. And that's nice. That earns me, $500 or $600 a month in ad revenue. And I appreciate that. And I enjoy making these videos, but I'm not famous. Like, that's hilarious. So the name itself is to make fun of myself. By saying, I'm the famous American. I'm famous? No, I'm not famous. Am I American? Yes. And the reason I even put that as part of the title is because I recognize that some of my most outspoken viewers who leave comments are not American. They're specifically in Europe or the Philippines. Specifically, those are two parts of the world. Like all of Europe and specifically the Philippines and Asia are specific parts. So if you think that that's offensive, I want to know. Maybe I should change my name of my channel. But is that offensive to people in other parts of the continent of America, even though the name of our country is the United States of America, and we're referred to as Americans when there's plenty of other Americans, they're just not part of the United States? Is that offensive to refer to myself as an American? Your comments belong right here.